1260. The world trembled beneath the hooves of the Mongol army. Genghis Khan's successors swept across Asia, their conquests marked by brutal efficiency and the collapse of established powers. Cities fell, cultures were destroyed, and terror preceded their advance. From China to Persia, no one seemed able to stop their progress. This is the story of how a single battle, at a place called Ain Jalut, changed the course of history. The Mongol advance into the Middle East brought them into conflict with the Mamluks. They were not an indigenous population, but a caste of slave soldiers who had risen to rule Egypt. They were mainly of Turkish, Circassian, and Kipchak origin, bought and trained from childhood in military skills. Their power was absolute, their military prowess formidable. They overthrew the Ayyubids, the previous rulers of the region, and established a new order centered on Cairo. At their head was Sultan Qutuz, a man of fierce determination who understood the gravity of the threat. The Mongol army, commanded by Kitbuka, a trusted lieutenant of Hulagu Khan, was a force unlike any the Mamluks had faced. Their mastery of mounted warfare, their organization, and their sheer numbers made them almost unstoppable. They had already conquered Baghdad and Damascus, leaving trails of destruction in their wake. They expected the same result in Egypt. Their reputation preceded them, a psychological weapon as potent as their arrows. But the Mamluks were not a people easily subdued. They knew the Mongols were coming. Sultan Qutuz recognized that resistance was not simply about land, it was about survival. With the Mongols now occupying Syria, Egypt stood alone as the last great Muslim power in the region. He knew that if the Mongols took Egypt, their advance across North Africa would become inevitable. He unified his kingdom, gathered his generals, and prepared for the inevitable confrontation. Qutuz first ensured that his army would be well supplied and ready. He sent out scouts to gather intelligence about the Mongol army's movement. He consolidated his own forces and secured alliances with smaller kingdoms in the Levant, though these were tenuous. He knew that to stand a chance, he needed to choose the battlefield, one where he might negate the Mongols' superior cavalry tactics. He chose Ain Jalut, a site in northern Palestine, for the battle. The surrounding terrain, with its hills and valleys, offered the Mamluks a measure of cover and restricted the full deployment of the Mongol cavalry. This was a calculated risk. He understood the challenge ahead, but he also recognized that not engaging the Mongols in the field was akin to surrendering Egypt to them without a fight. On September 3, 1260, the two armies met at Ain Jalut. Kitbuka, confident in Mongol superiority, attacked the Mamluks head-on. The initial charge was fierce, and the Mamluk center wavered. The battle hung in the balance. This is where the tactical skill of the Mamluks, and specifically their commander Baybars, would make a difference. Baybars, a military tactician with his own reputation for courage and brilliance, commanded the Mamluk vanguard. The Mamluks employed a number of tactics they had learned over years of fighting other armies in the region. Their heavy cavalry, clad in armor, was effective at countering Mongol charges, while their infantry provided a steady line and close-range attacks. A critical moment arrived when the Mamluks initially pushed back, used a feigned retreat to draw the Mongols into a trap. As the Mongol cavalry pursued what they believed was a retreating enemy, the Mamluks then turned on them, catching the pursuing troops off guard. Kitbuka himself was killed in the confusion, a blow that demoralized the Mongol forces. The Mongols, accustomed to victory, faltered. The battle turned decisively in favor of the Mamluks. They fought with a ferocity born of desperation, knowing that their very existence depended on this victory. The Mongol retreat soon turned into a rout. The Mamluks had inflicted a serious defeat on what was thought to be an unbeatable army. Ain Jalut was more than just a victory, it was a turning point. It was the first time a Mongol army had been decisively defeated in open battle. The Mamluks not only saved Egypt from Mongol domination, They also checked the Mongol expansion westward and halted their advance in the Middle East. This victory also enhanced Mamluk prestige, cementing their role as defenders of Islam in the region.